Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 bot AI cast. We have got ourselves what should be a good one here today, as it is going to be VeTerran Revived taking on Deimos. Deimos, the top Protos bot, an incredibly razor-sharp killer. It did have some difficulty last match I cast between it and VeTerran, so I thought I'd cast another one. Or I didn't actually just plan on casting. I was planning on casting another Deimos game, and then I saw like, oh, hey, Deimos and VeTerran played another one, so let's check that one out and see how it goes. So we've got a TVP, ladies and gentlemen, but more importantly, a bot versus bot match. So go ahead and click that like button if you haven't already. If we can hit 60 likes on this video, that would be amazing. You guys are the absolute best at it. You blow it out of the water every time for us being a relatively small channel. And yeah, leave a comment down below saying more bots, more bagels, more boats, whatever it may be. So, VeTerran going for an SCV scout, checking out the main base of Deimos, just seeing all those probes, speed mining away, and VeTerran, of course, speed mining as well. Pretty much all the top bots speed mine. And yeah. VeTerran, for those of you that don't know, is an open source Terran bot. So it used to be developed by someone. However, I guess they went inactive and made their bot open source, and someone decided to continue on the project, which is very cool. The fact that there are some open source bots out there that you can build your own bot off of, if you wish. Now, we do have the SCV Scout for VeTerran just moving around, checking out the main base of Deimos. We got a factory on the way up for VeTerran. And the scouting probe of Deimos will be killed off, so the Protos bot having a quicker expand than that of VeTerran. VeTerran is going for a siege tank and a starport, so a 1-1-1, a rather aggressive Terran build. We'll see if it amounts to much, though, as it will have to contend with the adepts of Deimos. And Deimos' adepts can be pretty sharp when it comes to early game aggression, but as far as Protos that's going for an expansion against a Terran that isn't, you're not going to get too much damage done. As the Protos, we actually have one of these adepts getting cornered. The shade completes, but I think this one is going to go down, so, but oh my gosh, does it actually escape? The adept just barely runs on out of there. Meanwhile, a second adept comes on in. That is a very lucky adept, and holy cow, what is going on there? That is game. Did that adept just walk up that wall? Oh my gosh, that is something I've never seen before. These bot games, they really deliver. A human would never click 1,000 times trying to get up on a high ground pillar, but an adept would. I'm actually really curious if that adept would be killable while in that spot, or if it could path to the top of that. I assume not, because it's not like Terrans or any race can drop units on top of there. So I think that was probably just a very small position. Who knows? Maybe it's going to go back up there as this adept paths back. Not quite, but man, that was some very cool bot shenanigans there. We've got a third base going up for Deimos, so this Protoss is going for a third. Meanwhile, the Terran has barely been able to secure up a natural, as this adept pressure has been mounting. That is quite a few losses for the Protoss in the early game, though. 2 adepts going down. But, I mean, as long as Deimos doesn't get counterattacked in the immediate future, it should be in a just fine position. As once Deimos gets up its third base, that's usually where it finds most of its success. We've already got an Immortal on the way. So Deimos building into potentially that Immortal Stalker composition that it likes, but the Stalkers are still bullying VeTerran a little bit, poking in, poking on out. There is the Medivac to heal up the Marines, but Deimos actually targets that a little bit, so we'll see how much work it can get done with these Stalkers. One Marine goes down, may even be able to get a second, or the Medivac, we shall see. The Medivac takes some damage and retreats, but now the Marines are left to deal with Stalkers. Widow Mines are shuffling around. Looks like one of the Stalkers will eat a mine. The problem is there's only 3 Stalkers and 3 Widow Mines So another Stalker's going to wander forward, eat that Widowmine shot. The developer of VeTerran has made it so that once the Widowmine fires, the bot tries to get, or the mine tries to get on out of there. But man, oh man, the natural base of VeTerran, it's being bullied out by 2 Stalkers. And so that natural hasn't even finished for VeTerran. Meanwhile, Deimos is on a 3 base economy. So this game is looking much better for the Protos bot than the previous one. We'll see if VeTerran can potentially hunker down when the aggression of Deimos comes. Of course, VeTerran is a very tank-heavy bot, which seems to counter the vast majority of other bots out there because it's just difficult to engage into siege tanks. And I think they may be underutilized a little bit. And VeTerran kind of is the bot that makes me believe that the most, because it does go for kind of a ridiculous amount of siege tanks. We do see Deimos pushing on in again, though. That tank, though, will push that Protoss army back. There's now a Banshee trying to poke into the Stalkers, the Cyclone trying to get something done, but I think VeTerran's just better off staying back by that tank. The Observer is allowing all these Widowmines to be picked off, which isn't good for the Terran bot. We do have turrets going up for VeTerran, so I mean, it's getting some anti-harassment stuff up, but it really just needs to worry mainly about anti-army stuff on the very front of its door. It's not so much harassment that Deimos is going for. We have pretty much everything but that tank getting picked off for VeTerran. Deimos does seem to be struggling with that tank a little bit. I mean, it probably could just go in and kill that tank if it knew how little VeTerran had, but of course you got to program a bot that works with incomplete information. So I mean, Deimos wants to push on in, but then it does seem to stutter a bit, and I wonder if maybe we just didn't see this before, or maybe the devs changed something in Deimos's behavior. But man, oh man, it really has a hard time with these tanks lately. Like, I swear, the first time we saw Deimos, it wouldn't just sit back this passively and eat tank shots for absolutely nothing. So a bit of hard glitching from Deimos, unfortunately. It does at least pull back, but then it decides to go back in, so there's some hesitation, which isn't great for the Protoss bot. Looks like a Cyclone stepping forward, locks onto an Immortal. The Protoss army of Deimos is still building up. Meanwhile, the Protoss is on 4 Nexus, so getting a very strong economy up. That 1 tank, though, is the only reason VeTerran is alive on a relatively small 2-base economy, but for some reason Deimos isn't deciding to go on in. I really don't know what's holding it up at this point. I mean, there's only 11 supply for the Terran. Now Deimos decides to go on in. It is going to attack forward. Ravens save the day by tossing down mass auto turrets, so it is good to see that Deimos is actually electing to go in for the attack sometimes, but there is a bit of a longer wait than there should be. I'm not really sure what changed in that equation to say, hey, I can go in now versus when it was just sitting back before, or why it does sometimes hover in the tank range. Looks like Deimos is moving in again. Stalkers now have Blink, actually, and we'll see if they can pick off this tank. This tank really is the lifeline for VeTerran. The Immortal gets a shot off on the tank, but it's being repaired. The rest of the Protoss army retreats. Meanwhile, this 1 Stalker is still doing work. However, the Medivacs are keeping the SCVs alive, and the SCVs are repairing each other. The tank, there's now 2 tanks out, which is double trouble for Deimos. Deimos is getting out Stalkers, getting out +1 armor on the way. This Protoss bot did make a name for itself by its utilization of Tempest, so we'll see if it's going to transition into these games, or whether it'll stay on sort of 5 bases for longer. It looks like Deimos does decide to go on in, gets a Raven, gets a tank, but then backs out once more. Now eating some tank shots. There is a Thor out for VeTerran. VeTerran is in a very precarious position. Those auto turrets helping force back some of the Protoss units. SCVs repairing the Thor as the Thor just gets lifted up and carried 2 feet. The VeTerran is in a very, very tricky position right now. There is 2 more siege tanks on the way for the Terran bot. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this just goes to show how difficult it is to program a bot that behaves smart around siege tanks. Because, I mean, Deimos is one of the best bots out there, and yet it struggles with it. And so, I mean, kind of by selection bias, it just goes to show that it's very, very difficult to program. Like, if the top bot has a difficult time with it, it's not an easy programming task. I know sometimes we look at those bots and it's, even myself as a caster, I say, oh, why doesn't it just do this? And it's because you have to take into account the entire game of Starcraft 2, all the possibilities, and it's just not easy. So while VeTerran has a hard time engaging, I am a little disappointed though, or Deimos, by Deimos sitting inside the tank range. I feel like that should be something that's a little easier to keep track of and avoid. Of course, it doesn't see the tanks right now. But as far as the move in, move out sort of thing, I think there could be some improvement there potentially. Stalkers are now engaging a battle cruiser that somehow VeTerran has survived to get up to. It still is a massive amount of supply for the Protoss though. With 6 bases up, it's good to see Deimos taking a 5th to 6. Meanwhile, VeTerran is still just turtling, trying to get out Thors. And it looks like the Protoss bot is actually going on home. And oh my gosh, what is Deimos doing just chilling out here? Deimos is having a hard time right now. I don't know why it's pulling back to this spot. It must be an anomaly or something. We've got Tempest now on the way for the Protoss though, so it is going to have those late game air units which can potentially help out, although there's no defense going on right now against VeTerran's army. And let's see, this Terran bot has been able to break free by the good graces of Deimos. Deimos is maxed out and not attacking for some reason. I really do wonder what kind of trigger it's waiting for here. We're seeing 2 Nexus be built, so Deimos is in full-on expand mode, but then it's just kind of sitting back, so maybe it's waiting for Teutonic Destabilizers before it moves out. Maybe it's waiting for +2 attack, +1, who knows? Yeah, Deimos sitting here is not a good look for the blue Protoss bot, though. And so I do kind of wonder if maybe there were some changes made that have had some unintended side effects, because I feel like Deimos didn't do glitches like this too often. Maybe it's a VeTerran thing. Maybe something about VeTerran just throws Deimos for a loop. We do see the Protoss blink forward with its Stalkers. There are tanks sieged up. There is now the 1 Tempest out. And that's actually going to be enough to send VeTerran home. Meanwhile, VeTerran may find this Nexus that's right by its base. We'll see if Deimos replaces the Nexus that it lost. It's replacing the gases that it lost, or taking them for the first time. But now the Protoss is still just sitting back here trying to build this gateway. So definitely a little bit hard stuck in this match. VeTerran may just be surviving this game off of the back of its opponent glitching. And this is something that happens with bots quite frequently. It's just something, and it's why bot games, there can always be an upset. Like Deimos is the favorite bot in this matchup. But it really is having a hard time. This is just giving VeTerran all the time in the world to build up a massive Thor army. Well, I say massive, but 4, soon to be 6 Thors. That's quite a few in a game of StarCraft 2. And Deimos, yeah, it's just sitting back. I really don't know what it's waiting for. Why it's not attacking. It's got that 200 supply mark. Yeah, it would be interesting to know what exactly is going on here behind the scenes with the programming, as it seems to have lost its brain a little bit. A 5th base is getting up for VeTerran by the good graces of Deimos, not attacking the Protoss bot. I mean, it made its 1 Tempest. It's trying to build this gateway. Maybe this gateway trying to build and the units repositioning is what's going on, but I think that the units were hanging out here before that gateway was even being built. We're now seeing VeTerran come on in for an attack. Maybe this will wake Deimos up. We'll have to wait and see. There's that 1 Tempest double Yamato cannon, going to kill off 2 Stalkers. Looks like some of Deimos' units sort of break free of their silliness. 2 of those BCs just about go down. A Thor goes down. 1 of the BCs does at least escape. The rest of the Stalkers blink on down. Deimos has freed most of its Stalkers. It still seems to be grouping some of them up here, but it's now moving forward, and all of a sudden it snaps out of its funk. It starts massacring Thors. The tanks are getting killed as the blink forward just happens, so Deimos was sleeping, but now it's awake. VeTerran, I think, probably regrets attacking. And yeah, this Protoss force is just gobbling up anything that VeTerran moves forward with. There's just not enough Terran army supply to stand against this many Stalkers that are this aggressive. I mean, like, 40 Marines would be better than 6 Thors against this many Stalkers. But that's just not the case as VeTerran loses more and more units. It is producing 2 new siege tanks, which may help it out, but there's already that 1 Tempest out. Deimos is producing more and more units. It's grouping them up here for some reason, though, and I don't know why this is. What are you doing, Deimos? So we'll see if Deimos is actually going to attack on in far enough in this situation. There is 2 Tempest out now. I mean, a Thor is fighting Stalkers and Immortals. They're not exactly target firing down that Thor, but, I mean, VeTerran, I think, may just be dead at this point in the match. We got, I mean, the 3rd is being worked on. All the SCVs are being killed between the natural and the 3rd. Stalkers have killed off 1 base. They're now attacking another one. Looks like some of these Stalkers are deciding to go home, which I really don't understand. So I'm not sure what Deimos is waiting for. I wonder maybe it's waiting for a certain Tempest count, but it's got so many Stalkers that it's not hitting the Tempest it feels it needs to attack. Maybe that's a possibility. Somehow Deimos gets a probe over here and actually takes this base as soon as VeTerran is dislodged off it. So Deimos is better than what it was in the past as far as taking bases goes. I know sometimes we'd see it just take like 3 or 4 bases and then stop really taking any more despite having the map. So I'm a big fan of the more aggressive expanding. Some of these Stalkers are doing some work, but again, now Deimos is just hanging back and doing its thing for the most part. So it really is some interesting unit handling. Like, the units, I guess, probably all have like individual states for Deimos, and then so when they kind of get dragged out by VeTerran's army, they go into attack mode. These guys, they killed off the command center. Maybe there wasn't anything else to drag them into the fight, so they just defaulted to going home, which really is an interesting programming dynamic. Yeah, so VeTerran took a lot of damage, but now all of a sudden we've got Deimos sitting back at home with about 10,000 resources in the bank, just chilling. And now VeTerran may have time to rebuild as long as Deimos just parks its army here, which it seems to be doing. So maybe unless VeTerran attacks, Deimos will just have all the time in the world. We do have another Nexus being attempted to be taken. It does at least get canceled. VeTerran is replacing all its SCVs as this match goes on. But kind of just fast forwarding here to see if Deimos will ever break out of its slumber, I'll say, because it definitely was a slumber, having the ability to kill VeTerran's entire army and then to just eventually be like, all right, now let's go chase these units down, and then nothing more. So it really is a curious match. The curious case of Deimos, why it's having a hard time. I'll definitely cast some more Deimos games after this just to sort of show it shorter games, because of course there is a selection bias in the longer games. Bots are more likely to glitch out in the longer games because most of them are programmed for the first 5-10 minutes. Now, VeTerran is at 96 supply, 170, so it's getting close to max out. There is good upgrades rolling for VeTerran though. Meanwhile, I mean, Deimos, it's researching +3 attack and not really doing anything else. It makes a probe, interestingly enough, wanting 90 probes, but now we are seeing VeTerran cross the map. It says 112 supply is enough, and this is quite the beefy army. I mean, there's 26 Marauders against all these Stalkers. I don't know if this is like a dynamic composition of VeTerran to deal with what Deimos has, but man, oh man, it could work out. We do see those Stalkers, all of a sudden, something approaches them, and they say, hey, danger, and they start fighting. They just blink forward so aggressively. They're blinking forward, not even firing, though. And so we are seeing Deimos' units have some questionable movements still. More Stalkers are being produced as they die. There is still the 2 Tempest. I say now 1 Tempest as the Thors annihilate them. Stalkers are moving forward, blinking forward, getting on top of this Terran army. This is Deimos' lethal behavior being shown. So kind of in the small picture, in the small fights, Deimos has got pretty good micro at times, at least with the blink. But then in the grand scheme of things, it's having a hard time figuring out where it needs to go. And let's see. The Stalkers are now moving across the map, potentially looking for something more to kill. We've got more probes being built for Deimos as well, interestingly enough, making 8 at a time. Gonna go well past 90. Scan goes down. Stalkers are trading on out. And let's see, Deimos, it's still got some of these stalkers out on the map fighting battle cruisers. Does actually kill that battle cruiser, so Veterans BCs are having a hard time. Deimos takes a good fight, but what do you know, some of the units are just heading on home to hang out. So who knows which bot is going to win this match, because I mean, Veterans just been, it's basically not getting killed. It's just purely the attacking bot, whereas Deimos, it's like a bear. It's just defending its den, but then it's not gonna go too far away. And yeah, but I mean, look at this. Deimos has got all the bases, so it's gonna mine way more than Veteran. It's taking pretty good trades. So in theory, Veteran's gonna run out of money, which then means that Deimos will not. I mean, yeah, which then is, I mean, Deimos is kind of moving its army a little bit. I really don't know what made it decide to attack there. But yeah, so Deimos then kind of like is just sitting back, and it could potentially just sit here until this game's a draw, unless Veteran pulls it into a fight, which I mean it is doing as time goes on. There's the odd probe running out here and there for Deimos, trying to take all the bases that it. I mean, there's stuff at those bases, so it is a bit odd that it's trying to send probes over there. Maybe they're trying to get to the main base. They don't know if the main base has been taken. So yeah, Deimos is just feeding out the odd few probes here and there now at this point in the game, which isn't exactly great. Looks like this base is going to be getting attacked, though, so Veteran kind of picks a better location to attack because it's not going to pull Deimos' army out. As I say that, though, Deimos' army is just still moving around. It's so bizarre how it's like, yeah, move these units over here now, but don't attack. Don't you dare attack. And Veteran, I mean, it cleans up that base. It may even be able to take this location, which would drastically improve its fortunes. Still, there's a massive bank for Deimos, so we'll just have to wait and see whether Veteran keeps on attacking, which it should do. It's a maxed out bot, and that means it's time to attack. So come on, Deimos, chop chop, let's get to it. You're the top 3 bot on the ladder. You should maybe you're just having an off day. Who knows? Anyway, we do have, as soon as Veteran gets near, Deimos snaps out of its funk, takes a fight. Some stalkers are going down, but the numbers are just so massive for Deimos, and the way Veteran's army is trickling in, it's having a hard time. And these bots, they do sometimes have difficulties with the larger fights. That seems where they have their weakness. They can fight all over the map at times. This is a large grouping of Thors, though that may be more than the Stalkers can handle, as Veteran just comes on in. I mean, there's a Tempest firing, Stalkers doing what they can, and they are actually blinking forward. That is more than enough Stalkers, I think, to kill off these Thors, as Deimos is just replacing them. Looks like the Thors are all going down. We're now seeing triple Tempest production kick off for Deimos. I wonder if Deimos is just sitting back waiting for a certain number of Tempest. That's the only thing I can imagine, so who knows, maybe if it gets out these 3 Tempest, it will start to attack, and it is kind of being dragged across the map. Veteran does not want to drag Deimos all the way to its home. That would not be good. We are now seeing those Tempests cross the map, at least. The Stalkers, yeah, it's funny how the unit behavior is different based on what the units are. So the Tempest will fly across the map and attack and join their comrades, whereas the Stalkers are just not interested in it. This one is walking across the map to reinforce, whereas these guys are just set to be home. And it just goes to show that programming things is definitely not simple. We do have Deimos now attacking on in. Veteran has got so many minerals, but not much gas. It's making lots of Marauders. I mean, the Thor, the Battle Cruiser, the tank at the back are doing lots and lots of work. We have this one BC teleports to a quote-unquote safe place, but it is not a safe place. And another one's going to die as well. The Thor and tank are trying to hold the line. The Thors do pretty well against the Tempest, but the Stalkers are still doing work. We've got Veteran, probes, and SCVs fighting each other as this goes on. Well, I think SCVs are mainly losing this fight, as I do like this behavior from Deimos. The probes, they just zap on their way to wherever they're going. That's something that's free. that is actually getting value in this case of a match. Meanwhile, VeTerran is trying to hold on. Thor's popping off Stalkers. There's been a lot of Stalkers dead this game. 171 Stalkers dead, 30 dead Thors. This Thor, though, is kind of just trying to chase down that Tempest while it's surrounded by Stalkers. Another Thor pops on out. He's doing what he can. But, I mean, he is killing off 2 Stalkers before it dies. There's still some mining going on for VeTerran, but probes for Deimos are just harassing all over the place and even stealing the money of VeTerran now. There's still a lot of Stalkers coalescing on this point, and it does seem that most of Deimos' units are actually just electing to go home at this point in the match, which is very bizarre. There's mules trying to mine from this location as probes disrupt them. A nexus is being taken over here. VeTerran, it should, in theory, be able to clean up this handful of Stalkers that are left on over here. And then, who knows, maybe it can start rebuilding again. It's still got quite a bit of gas to mine and a good mineral bank. Deimos has got 15k in the bank, down about 5k from its peak. So it is losing money. VeTerran's trades are not great, though, seeing as how it's had much fewer bases than its opponent, as Deimos even long-distance mines out this base of VeTerran. Who knows, though? You never know with these bot games, as we've seen, as Deimos just decides to sit home once more. Okay, now Tempest are moving out. A few of the Stalkers are moving out. But then they're like, no, no, no. Maybe it's the cliff that's messing up the pathing of these units? I have no idea. Only the bot authors can tell us the answer to this. And if you are the bot authors, feel free to let me know. I feel like Team Eris is a fairly silent dev team, which is understandable. But, yeah, who knows? If anyone can explain it in the comments down below, let me know. We do have VeTerran retaking this base almost at 150 supply again. So, I mean, it's already building up another beefy army. Who knows? Maybe this time it can take a good fight. It's killing off lots of probes. Maybe Deimos is going to bankrupt itself by just sending probes to their death. I really don't know, but this is why we commentate these bot games. VeTerran having this base up as well is quite huge for it. And look at this. These probes, they're just being rallied out endlessly. It's a shooting range for VeTerran, and Deimos is actually spending so much money. It's building 8 probes at a time. And that is not good. That is not good at all. We've got some probes still fighting these SCVs down here, being a nuisance, but VeTerran sends in some of its army, and still 8 probes being made at a time. And look at this, the bank of Deimos is just cratering based on dead probes. It's 267. This is bots gone wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Now, VeTerran is maxed out, so maybe we'll have another army fight as it crosses the map. It's just shooting probes that are on their way, seeking riches. And it's just not good. This is not the way I expected Deimos to potentially lose this game going on. I mean, I kind of knew, clicking on a longer replay, that Deimos was probably going to be having a hard time, like in a previous match, but I didn't expect this. I did not expect this. VeTerran is still just hanging out. Probes are still just rallying across the map. Let's see if we're going to have a big fight. I mean, these 2 probes are still endlessly harassing SCVs. This is costing a bit of money for VeTerran. VeTerran is actually responding to that stimulus, though. Those probes are going for it. They're getting shot down as more and more probes move across the map. VeTerran is now charging towards the base of Deimos. 5k in the bank, actually a pretty significant bank. Looks like some of the Stalkers are repositioning for Deimos. Who knows what's going on here? As the Terran is getting close towards the base of Deimos, the bear is going to be unleashed once more. Stalkers moving forward. There's lots of Marauders, lots of Thors. Tempest in the skies are doing what they can. There's idle Stalkers in the main, but it seems VeTerran is going for it in this case. But look at this, Stalkers blinking forward once again, and they are just outnumbering the Thors. Gonna probably get another cleanup here as Deimos trades out a lot of its money, but then it is actually able to kill off pretty much the whole army of VeTerran once more. Now, this base has actually just been speed mined out by mass mules of VeTerran, so that is actually quite good for the Terran bot. But that gas is gone. How's the rest of the gas looking? It looks like VeTerran may be running. I mean, it's got these 2, which are, that's another 2k gas. Yeah, it's still got that gas. That gas is pretty much mined out. And so I really have no idea But anyway, Deimos does seem to be moving forward for an attack, chasing an SCV, finds a Raven, finds some Marauders too. We'll see if VeTerran is going to be given the good graces it needs to survive in this match. VeTerran, I think at this point, is hoping for the probe-killing victory to bankrupt Deimos. The Protos bot is moving out, moving forward. Thors are doing what they can, but just as far as the numbers and the mobility of the Stalkers, Thors have a hard time competing. The Tempest drawing their attention too. VeTerran is, I mean, it's still fighting. It doesn't have that much of a bank though, and it really is just out of money all of a sudden. As man, oh man, VeTerran, yeah, just burnt through all its cash. It's making more SCVs at this point in the game, which I don't think it really needs to do, but bots are doing bot things. I don't think Deimos needs to be making 5 probes at a time and building a nexus on a location that has no minerals left. Nothing, nada. But Deimos wants it, so... Anyway, is Deimos going to win this game? It looks like VeTerran has no chance of getting an elimination victory unless it gets a draw. Maybe Deimos will just not kill it. Who knows, though, as the Terran bot is holding on the top of this ramp. It's only got 26 armies fly. The last Thor is going to try and be a hero, but the pathing of the Thors may need a bit of work, too. There's units near them. There's Stalkers around the Thors, but then they're so busy trying to get the Tempest. Maybe that would be a thing that VeTerran could have added to it if it was to be updated to say, hey, if there's a unit within shooting range of my unit, just shoot that unit. Don't go try and chase after another unit. That may be a good way to address the Thors not taking the most optimal fights for VeTerran. Looks like the Terran is completely out of money to mine, though. It's still got a few bases left, as Deimos is seemingly woken up a little bit. Is there Stalkers in the spot, though? Yes, there is. Man, oh man. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've watched up until this point of this incredibly glitchy game, go ahead and click that like button. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And yeah, if you do want to support the channel, well, you can leave a comment for starters. That's free and definitely helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm to spread these weird bot games across the internet. If you do want to support the channel, though, there is links in the description, YouTube membership, and then PayPal email. And yeah, we have got just these Stalkers on cleanup duty. I mean, Deimos is kind of leaving everything else of VeTerran behind, so whether it's actually going to go finish the game or go back and hide in its hole, I do not know. It looks like it is actually going to go kill off these buildings, so perhaps VeTerran is going to get the win here as those buildings die, but I mean, there's still this command center hanging out. If this is what I was talking about. If VeTerran had never attacked in this game could have been a draw, because Deimos would have just sat there pretty much in perpetuity. If VeTerran never attacked, it could have just killed the probes that were long-distance mining and being replaced. But it does seem that Deimos has actually won this one. It comes through, and so we can say Deimos is a good bot. It was a very derpy bot today, but it still got the win. So in the eyes of the programmer, it could be a winning tactic. If this was machine learning, it would be saying, hey, that's how I win games, and building off of that. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for tuning in.